Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive.
The podcast that doesn't just accept the story
We break it. We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
What if everything you've been sold about becoming limitless?
Quantum fields bending to your thoughts. Coherence healing the incurable. Oneness unlocking divine power.
Isn't just unproven, but deliberately engineered to keep you striving inside the very prison it claims to liberate you from.
It's a terrifying question, really.
It is, isn't it? Because we are so used to thinking of self-help and, spirituality as the exit door, the escape hatch from the daily grind.
But what if that exit is what if it's a revolving door, one that's actually designed to, harvest your energy?
Your hope, your money, your attention.
Exactly. So today we are dissecting the entire empire of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I want to be really clear right from the top. We aren't here to meditate or chant affirmations.
Yeah.
We are treating his famous 12 conceptual nodes not as spiritual truths. We're looking at them as components.
As gears in a machine.
A containment system. That's the framework for today.
And we have a massive stack of analysis in front of us. We're talking cross-references to, believe it or not, ancient Gnosticism, a ton of critiques of pseudoscience from the actual scientific community.
And a taxonomy. A breakdown of how these ideas function specifically as emotional levers.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to see the system for what it is.
A cycle of constant striving that, at the end of the day, just harvests hope.
Okay, so where do we begin with a system this big?
You have to start with the architect. You have to start with the man himself, because if the person selling you the map is wearing a mask, you need to know what's underneath it.
Section 1, then.
Section 1, the authority illusion and the bafflement strategy.
It all starts with the title, right? Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yes.
When you hear that, especially when you see him on a stage, backlit by these giant screens showing neurons firing and quantum potentials collapsing.
You make an assumption.
You absolutely do. You assume a very specific kind of pedigree.
You're thinking neuroscientist.
Or quantum physicist. Or, at the very least, a biologist with a PhD. Someone who spent decades in a lab coat, peering into microscopes or crunching the numbers on wave functions.
Exactly. You assume a PhD in the hard sciences because that's the language he's using. But let's do the credential check.
This is important.
It's critical because the source material is, it's brutal on this point. Dr. Joe Dispenza is a chiropractor. He is a DC.
The doctor of chiropractic.
Which means he does not hold a PhD in neuroscience. He is not a PhD in biology. He is certainly not a PhD in quantum physics.
And we have to be clear here. This is not a knock on chiropractors.
No, not at all.
If you have spinal issues, they can be incredibly helpful. But the point is about foundational training. His expertise is in spinal adjustment and subluxations.
Not the mind-bending complexities of quantum mechanics or neurobiology or genetic expression.
And yet that's the entire brand. The whole appeal is that he bridges that gap. He's the guy who finally connects science and spirituality.
But the source material, it labels that very bridge pseudoscientific foundations. It actually references a pretty aggressive critique. The title is Joe Dispenza, Chiropractor Excels in Pseudoscientific Bullshit.
Wow.
That's a direct quote from the analysis we're using. So, we're not mincing words today.
So how does he do it? How does he maintain that authority without the credentials in the fields he's talking about?
The strategy identified here is a specific one. It's called bafflement.
Bafflement. That's a fascinating term. It sounds like a mechanism of control.
It is. It's a psychological tactic. Think about it. It's when you use language that is so complex, so dense with jargon, and it's delivered so fast and with such confidence
that your brain just kind of shorts out.
Exactly. The listener's critical mind just gives up. You hear him stringing together quantum superposition, the piezoelectric effect, neuroplasticity, and epigenetic regulation all in one sentence.
And you just assume, well, he must know something I don't. You don't want to be the one to raise your hand and say, I'm sorry, that makes no sense.
Right. It creates a pseudo-authority. The source notes that critics classify his work as pseudoscience for this exact reason. He invokes these heavy scientific fields.
Quantum physics, epigenetics.
Without any peer-reviewed studies to back up the very specific, very grand claims he's making, he's taking real scientific words that have precise mathematical meanings.
And he's using them like magic spells, like incantations.
That is the perfect way to put it. And this leads to a concept called scientism.
Okay, unpack that for us.
Scientism is when you use the aesthetic of science. the look and feel of it.
So the lab coat, metaphorically speaking.
The lab coat, the graphs, the brain scans on the big screen, the complex terminology. It has all the dressings of science, but it lacks the empirical core. It lacks the falsifiable hypothesis, the controlled studies.
It's a performance of science.
A performance designed to obscure the lack of evidence with a veneer of overwhelming complexity.
And that's where the danger lies, isn't it? Because the listener feels like they're getting an education.
No. Of course. You feel like you're learning these incredibly advanced concepts. You feel smarter. You feel like you're being let in on the secrets of the universe, the ones the mainstream won't tell you.
But according to the breakdown in our sources, specifically Node 12 of his system, this is categorized as a misuse of science.
You aren't learning physics. You are engaging in a narrative that is just wearing physics as a costume.
And the source material uses a very specific, and I have to say, kind of a dark term for what this achieves.
Oh, I know which one you mean.
It calls it a frequency harvest.
Yeah, that part gave me chills. Let's really unpack that. A frequency harvest.
Okay, so think about the state your brain is in when you're being baffled. You're confused, yes, but you're also impressed. You're awestruck. You're looking for a handhold, something to grasp onto.
You're in a state of heightened emotion and reduced critical thinking.
Exactly. By confusing you with this fire hose of jargon, the critical faculty of the brain, that little voice that says, wait a minute, does that actually make sense? It just shuts down.
You stop questioning because you don't want to feel stupid.
And once that gatekeeper, your rational mind, is asleep, the programming can just walk right in. You become incredibly open to suggestions that, if they were stated plainly, you'd probably reject as complete nonsense.
That's a fantastic point. If he just stood up and said, close your eyes and wish really, really hard for a new car, you'd laugh him off the stage.
You'd ask for your money back.
But if he says, you must enter the quantum field as pure consciousness to collapse the wave function of infinite potential into the material expression of abundance that resonates with your new electromagnetic signature.
You take notes. You buy the book.
You buy the $2,000 workshop.
And that's the bafflement strategy. He dazzles you with the science, and then while you're stunned and impressed, he slips in the actual trap.
The biological trap. Which brings us right to section 2.
The biological trap, covering nodes 2 and 3 of his system. This is where the walls of the containment system really start to close in.
It starts with a premise that sounds so reasonable. It sounds like a helpful diagnosis of the human condition.
But it's actually profoundly disempowering.
Node 2, habits programs. This is a cornerstone of his teaching. The claim is that unconscious routines, habits, and programs steal 95% of your free will.
You hear this in almost every single lecture. By the time you're 75 years old, you are a set of memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, hardwired attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions that function like a computer program.
Right. And on the surface, that sounds like a call to awareness. It sounds like he's saying, hey, wake up, pay attention.
But look at the structure of that claim. Look at the math he's using. 95%.
It's not a lot. It's a specific, terrifyingly high number.
It frames the human mind as a free will thief. It tells you point blank that your natural state, the way your brain and body were built, is to be a robot, a zombie.
So what does that do to you, the listener?
It creates a problem that conveniently only he has the solution to. If I truly believe I am 95% automated, that I'm not in control, I feel utterly helpless. I feel broken. I feel like a passenger in my own body, watching a movie of my life that I can't influence.
It's what the source calls suppressed sovereignty. By convincing people they're almost entirely automated robots, he creates a narrative where you desperately need a control matrix.
Which is his set of techniques, his meditations, his workshops.
To break free. He sells you the disease and the cure in the same breath.
It effectively pathologizes the human condition. Having habits, having routines, that isn't a flaw. It's how our brains conserve energy. It's an evolutionary advantage.
But in this view, it's a prison. Being a normal human is a cage. And then once you believe that, he twists the knife with Node 3.
Node 3, the personality-reality link.
This is the idea that your personality creates your personal reality. It's that simple and that absolute.
This is what our sources call the epigenetic twist. The central claim that your thoughts, your feelings, your personality, they are literally rewriting your genes in real time to manifest your life conditions.
Okay, now let's be fair for a second. Epigenetics is a very real, very exciting field of science.
Absolutely. We know that environmental factors, diet, stress, toxins, can influence which genes get turned on or off.
Chronic stress has a measurable negative effect on the body. This is not controversial. We know this.
But Dispenza takes this established, nuanced science and he blows it up into an extreme, absolute, and unfalsifiable conclusion.
He creates an internal blame mechanism. That's the function of this node. If your personality creates your reality one-to-one, then what does that say about your cancer diagnosis?
What does that say about your poverty, your abusive relationship, your childhood trauma?
It says it's your fault.
It says you created it. You attracted it with your personality. Your thoughts did this to you.
Exactly. It implies that if you just thought better thoughts, if you just cultivated a better personality, whatever that means, you wouldn't be sick, you wouldn't be broke, you wouldn't be suffering.
It completely erases chance. It erases bad luck. It erases systemic injustice. It erases everything external to your own mind.
That is solipsism disguised as empowerment. It's the ultimate navel-gazing philosophy.
And our source material draws a really interesting parallel here. It connects it to what it calls Marxist false consciousness.
I found that fascinating.
Marx argued that the capitalist system survives by making workers blame themselves or each other for their poverty, so they don't blame the inherent inequalities of the system.
Right. It's not the system that's broken, it's me. I just need to work harder.
Dispenza basically industrializes that concept to the 21st century. He turns your internal obsession into a full-time, all-consuming job.
Think about the political utility of that idea. It's staggering. If you believe your poverty is because you haven't upregulated your abundance genes properly,
you're not going to be out on a picket line protesting for higher wages or better working conditions.
No, you're going to go home, sit on a cushion, and meditate for 3 hours, trying to fix your scarcity mindset.
It's a perfect tool for maintaining the status quo. It keeps everyone focused inward.
It's what the analysis calls a conclusion command node. The conclusion is, I create everything in my life.
And the command that follows is, therefore, I must turn inward. Ignore the outside world. Don't fight the system. Fight your own mind.
Treat your own thoughts as the ultimate enemy.
Which is the perfect way to neutralize an entire population, by the way. If everyone is busy fighting a war inside their own skull, trying to rewire their neurons to fix a systemic issue,
nobody is actually out in the world fixing the system.
The energy is contained, it's diverted.
Which is a perfect segue. Let's go deeper. Let's talk about the engine of this whole machine, the power source.
Yes, section 3.
The quantum con.
Ah, yes. Notes 7 and 8. This is the special sauce of the entire Dispenza brand, isn't it?
This is where he leaves the shaky ground of biology and just leaps into the void of pure magic, but calls it physics.
It's his unique selling proposition.
Let's start with Node 7, pure consciousness and the quantum field.
The instruction here is very specific. You've probably heard it. To create from the field, you have to become nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, in no time.
You have to dissolve your identity, erase yourself. Only by becoming nothing can you access the field of everything for, quote, limitless creation.
The source material is not kind to this idea. It explicitly calls it quantum observer misuse.
And the physics reviews we looked at are crystal clear on this. The observer effect in quantum mechanics. I mean, specifically in the Copenhagen interpretation.
It has a very specific meaning.
A very, very specific and non-mystical meaning. It refers to the act of measurement affecting a particle at a subatomic level. A photon hitting an electron to measure it changes its position. That's it.
It does not mean that if I sit in my chair and think really hard about a Ferrari, the quantum field of infinite Ferraris collapses into a physical one in my driveway.
Consciousness human thought does not collapse wave functions into macro objects like cars or bank accounts or healed livers. There is zero evidence for this.
But my God, it's a seductive idea, isn't it?
Oh, it's the ultimate fantasy. It's what the source calls the pseudo-observer effect. And just look at the promise that's being made.
If you disappear, if you erase yourself, you get limitless creation in return.
It's a transaction, a spiritual bargain. Give up your identity, give up your connection to this messy physical world, and I promise you, godhood.
Our source connects this to something called the reincarnation lure.
Explain that.
In some belief systems, you're promised a better life next time if you're good and obedient this time. This is a similar structure. It's promising a massive reward for disappearing, for surrendering your sense of self now.
It's actually very similar to old-school religious asceticism, isn't it?
Exactly. Denying the flesh, denying the self, mortification. Just dressed up in the shiny modern costume of quantum physics.
It frames your individual identity, your personality, your memories, everything that makes you as an obstacle, something to be overcome and erased.
And if that's the theory, then Node 8, brain-heart coherence is the practical application. This is where they hook you up to the machines at the workshops.
This is where the graphs come out. This is the performance of science we talked about.
The claim is that by synchronizing your brain waves and your heart rhythms, you generate a powerful electromagnetic field.
And this field, supposedly, acts like a magnet, drawing experiences to you from the quantum field.
But the core critique in our source is a classic one. Correlation does not equal causation.
The absolute bedrock of scientific literacy.
Yes, you can measure heart rate variability, or HRV. You can see it change when someone is calm. Yes, you can measure brain waves with an EEG and see when someone is relaxed or focused.
The technology exists. We can see that.
But the data is entirely selective. There is no study that shows a causal link between a particular HRV reading and, say, a check arriving in the mail. It's a complete leap of faith.
And this is where that concept of frequency farming comes roaring back.
The practices Dispenza teaches, and we need to get specific here, the breathing techniques, the squeezing of intrinsic muscles, the intense emotional visualization.
They are designed to generate a state of high physiological arousal.
Let's describe that breath technique because it's intense.
It involves clenching the perineum, pulling the stomach in and up, and then forcing your breath up your spine into your head and then holding it there.
Physiologically, this is a version of the Valsalva maneuver. It dramatically increases intracranial pressure, it restricts blood flow to the brain, and then floods it.
It can cause lightheadedness, a feeling of euphoria, tingling sensations, seeing lights, even mild hallucinations.
In other words, you feel high. You feel a massive rush. It's a purely physical, biological process.
But you're told it's a spiritual one. The source calls this prana, harvesting under a scientific name. You are generating huge amounts of energy in your body, both emotional and physical arousal, and you're being taught to direct it into this belief system.
You feel something powerful happening in your body, the tingling, the heat, the light behind your eyes. So you assume the science must be true.
You attribute the very real biological effect of hyperventilation and muscle squeezing to entering the quantum field.
And there's a reference in the source to the Nest Labs, the rise of fake scientists context. This fits perfectly. It's jargon that's meant to sound like medicine and neuroscience, but it's masking what is essentially a physiological trick.
You are getting high on your own supply, and he is selling you the pape.
And that intense physical sensation, that feeling of energy moving through you, is what makes the next section so incredibly potent and so dangerous.
Because once you feel the energy, you start to believe the miracles are possible.
Section 4, the healing mirage.
This is Node 9. And honestly, this is the most ethically fraught, the most dangerous part of this entire deep dive. This is where people can get seriously hurt.
Node 9, mystical experiences and healings. The workshops, the books, the YouTube channel, they are absolutely filled with stories.
And they are dramatic stories. Spontaneous remission of stage 4 cancer, Parkinson's disease disappearing overnight, people getting up from their wheelchairs and walking.
These are the stories that sell the tickets. This is the promise that fills the convention centers.
So we have to look at the verification section of our source material. What does it say?
It's just 2 words.
Absent independent records.
And this is absolutely crucial. In his books, like You Are the Placebo, there are dozens of testimonials. 50+ cases are cited. He talks about them constantly on stage.
But the source is clear. There are no medical records provided to independent third-party researchers. There are no randomized controlled trials or RCTs.
There are no case studies published in peer-reviewed medical journals.
Think about that for a second. If you discovered a method for curing stage 4 cancer with your mind, that is not just a cool story for your next book.
That is the single greatest medical breakthrough in human history.
That is a Nobel Prize. That changes the face of medicine forever. So where is the data? Where are the peer-reviewed studies published in The Lancet or the New England Journal of Medicine?
They don't exist. It's all anecdote.
And what's happening instead is what the source calls placebo over-attribution.
Okay, let's break that down. We know the placebo effect is real. It's a powerful and fascinating phenomenon.
And we know that stress reduction helps the body heal. The source notes that general mindfulness practice can offer a 10 to 20% reduction in stress.
That's great. It's genuinely beneficial. If you reduce your stress hormones, your immune system functions better. Your body has more resources for healing.
But Dispenza takes that natural biological relief.
And he attributes it to quantum access. He takes a normal, well-documented bodily process and he sells it back to you as a supernatural commodity.
He claims ownership of your body's own natural maintenance systems. He's rebranding the placebo effect as his proprietary technique.
And the risk here, the real-world danger, is something the source calls treatment abandonment.
We have to reference a YouTube debunk here called The Shameful Case of Joe Dispenza because it details this exact problem.
People hear these miraculous stories, and they stop their chemotherapy.
They stop taking their Parkinson's medication. They abandon conventional medical treatment because they come to believe they can coherence their way out of a tumor.
They're taught to believe that taking the medication is a crutch, that it's an act of low vibration.
They believe that if they take the chemo, they are affirming the illness in the quantum field, and that will prevent them from healing.
It is, functionally, faith healing rebranded for a secular, science-adjacent audience.
It functions exactly like an old-time tent revival. But instead of Jesus heals you, the mantra is the quantum field heals you.
The mechanism is identical. It's false salvation.
It hooks the user, especially the desperate and the vulnerable, on the hope of a miracle, and that hope is incredibly expensive.
It keeps them paying for the next $2,000 retreat because maybe, just maybe at the next one, they'll finally have their breakthrough. They'll finally crack the code and be the one who gets healed.
And if they don't heal, if the cancer progresses,
then the system has a built-in out. It's their fault.
Right. They didn't surrender enough. They were too analytical. Their old self crept back in and sabotaged the healing.
The system is always perfect. The user is always flawed. And that, right there, is the hallmark of a cultic dynamic.
Which brings us perfectly to the overall design of the trap itself. This isn't just a collection of bad ideas. It's an architecture.
Section 5, the architecture of containment. This is where we zoom out and look at the striving cycle.
Our source uses a phrase that just, it stopped me in my tracks. Empowerment as containment.
It's such a heavy phrase. It feels like a paradox.
Yes.
How can something that feels like empowerment actually be a cage?
It's explained through nodes 4, 5, and 6, the core practices: meditation, mental rehearsal, and escaping the big three, the body, the environment, and time.
The stated goal of all this is to become supernatural, to transcend the limitations of the human experience.
But what is the actual mechanism? The source calls it technique dependency.
Think about the logic. If the only way for you to be happy or healthy or wealthy is to spend hours every single day engaged in these specific meditations,
Specifically rehearsing your future. Specifically disconnecting from your body and your environment.
you are now completely dependent on the technique. You become a slave to the practice. If you miss a day, you feel anxiety. You feel like you're falling behind, like your dream future is slipping away.
It also creates what the analysis calls anticipation addiction.
You're constantly, endlessly rehearsing the future. I am rehearsing my future wealth. I am rehearsing my future perfect health. I am feeling the feelings of my future now.
It means what? It means you are never, ever in the present.
You are living in a state of deferred resolution. You're always waiting for the payoff. Your happiness is always just around the corner, waiting for the moment the quantum field finally delivers the goods.
And while you are waiting, while you're meditating for 4 hours a day, you are engaging in a state the source calls quietism.
Quietism is a philosophical concept. It describes a state of passive withdrawal from worldly affairs. You turn inward, you focus on your own spiritual state, and you let the world go by.
The system actively discourages skepticism. Being analytical is a blockage, and it discourages external action.
Why would you try to fix the world if you're being taught that the ultimate spiritual goal is to escape it?
Right. Why would you fight for better healthcare laws if you believe you can just quantum manifest a perfectly healthy body for yourself?
Why fight against systemic economic inequality if you believe you can just attract wealth by elevating your frequency?
Exactly. It diverts all your energy, all your passion, all your righteous anger inward. It reframes every single struggle as system internal.
You aren't fighting a corrupt pharmaceutical industry. You are fighting your old self. You aren't fighting a rigged economy. You are fighting your own limiting beliefs.
And that is the containment. That is the genius of the trap. As long as you are busy fighting a war with yourself, you are not a threat to any external power structure.
You are neutralized. You are spinning on a hamster wheel of self-improvement that never actually arrives at the destination, and more importantly, never changes anything in the world outside your own head.
And this doesn't just apply to the individual. He scales it up. It extends to the collective.
Which brings us to Section 6, the New Earth and collective control.
This covers nodes 10 and 12 from our breakdown. collective coherence, and the mission-driven collective.
This is the community building phase. This is where they get you to recruit your friends and family.
The narrative here is that group meditation can heal the world. That if we can just get enough people in a room raising their frequency and coherence,
we will literally usher in a new Earth, a planetary evolution of consciousness.
It sounds beautiful, it sounds noble, but what is its function? The source calls it passive mass compliance.
It's the belief that sitting in a room with your eyes closed, feeling elevated emotions, is the highest and most effective form of activism.
It actively stops people from taking what our source calls small, uncompromising acts of sovereignty in the real world.
And look at the structure that's created. It's a hierarchy. Who is at the top of this pyramid, leading the way to the new Earth?
Well, Node 1 in his system says the ultimate goal is connection with divine oneness source.
But functionally, within the movement, who is the sole interpreter of that source? Who is the leader ushering in this grand evolution?
It's Dispenza. He defines what coherence looks like. He sets the terms. He's the guru.
The source material compares this directly to movements like theosophy and other New Age ascension tropes. It's a concept called gradualism.
It tells you, don't tear down the prison, don't fight the guards, just meditate peacefully in your cell until the prison magically transforms into a palace.
It blocks any impulse toward refusal of the current system. And it's powered by what the analysis calls reincarnation bait.
It's the ultimate promise of a better future world to keep you docile and compliant in this one.
Just keep your vibration up.
Yeah.
Just focus on love and light, and the world will eventually change on its own. Meanwhile, the world burns.
Meanwhile, the rich get richer, the environment continues to degrade, and you are sitting in a $1,000 seat ballroom, breathing through your spine, convinced you're saving the planet.
So, we've dismantled the authority, the biology, the physics, the healing claims, and the social engineering of this movement. Where does that leave us? What's the final piece?
It brings us to the final section, Section 7, the heretical synthesis and the escape protocol.
Okay.
This isn't just about debunking. It's about understanding the deeper archetypal trap that's being set. We need to look at what the source calls the heretical cross-references.
Let's start with Node 1 again, oneness. In this system, achieving a state of oneness with the source is the ultimate goal.
But the source references ancient Gnosticism. And in Gnostic thought, this kind of undifferentiated all is one, all is love. Oneness can be what they called an archontic trap.
Whoa, okay, you have to unpack that. That is a heavy concept.
The archons in Gnostic mythology were the false gods, the jailers of this material reality. They created the prison, and their goal is to get you to love the prison.
To get you to believe that merging with the system is the ultimate spiritual achievement. They want you to surrender your divine spark of individuality and dissolve back into their program.
So, true Gnostic liberation wasn't about merging. It was about waking up and recognizing the system is a flawed, corrupt illusion. The oneness Dispenza sells actively obscures the reality of separation, injustice, and suffering. It tells you to ignore the pain rather than examine its source.
It tells you to merge with the simulation rather than trying to wake up from it.
Precisely. Now let's look at Node 7, the quantum field, through that lens. The source mentions a chaos magic warning.
I'm familiar with chaos magic. The core idea is that belief is a tool.
Right. You can use any belief system, gods, demons, quantum fields, whatever, as a psychological tool to create a result. But the absolute #1 rule, the warning, is to never forget that it's just a tool.
The danger is falling in love with your tool, forgetting it's a paradigm you chose to adopt, and starting to believe it's absolute objective truth.
And that's the trap. Dispenza treats the quantum field as a literal, objective, all-powerful God force that you must serve and appease.
Instead of the field serving you as a focusing tool, you become a slave to the tool. You start serving the quantum field.
And finally, Node 9, the healings. The source mentions radical Gnosticism, which viewed the physical body itself as part of the entrapment.
And yet, Dispenza's entire system, while talking about being no body, is fundamentally obsessed with perfecting the body, fixing its health, making it feel good.
It's a massive contradiction, isn't it? You're supposed to become no body, no thing, but the entire sales pitch is fix your body, get more things.
It keeps you completely trapped in materialism or pretending to be spiritual. It's the ultimate consumerist spirituality. Buy this workshop to transcend your desire for things so you can get more things.
So given all of this, the bafflement, the biological trap, the quantum con, the deep archetypal hooks, What is the escape protocol?
How do you get out of the containment system? How do you break the spell?
The source defines it very clearly. It starts with one core command: refuse striving cycles.
Stop. Stop the endless project of self-improvement.
And embrace the idea that sovereignty is non-negotiable.
You have to reject the soul-farming lures. Stop feeding the cycle of becoming. Stop trying to become supernatural or become your future self.
The key is realizing you already are. The whole system is predicated on the idea that you are broken, lacking, and incomplete.
The moment you believe you're broken and need a $2,000 retreat to fix you, you are in the trap.
The moment you believe you need a chiropractor to explain quantum mechanics to you so you can finally be happy, you have willingly given away your power.
The exit is the realization that any empowerment that requires a guru, a specific technique, and a hefty fee is just another form of containment. It's a fancier cage, but it's still a cage.
It's about stepping off the treadmill. It's about looking at the carrot on the stick and realizing it's made of plastic.
And the stick is being held by someone who is profiting massively from your endless running.
It's about reclaiming your own mind, your own ability to reason, and your own ability to accept reality as it is.
Messy.
Painful.
Beautiful.
And yours. It's yours, not the quantum field's. Yours to engage with, to fight with, to change.
And that, I think, brings us to the end of our analysis.
A deep one.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. Knowing the machinery we've just exposed, the false oneness, the quantum bait, the healing testimonials without evidence, what is the one promise of limitless becoming you're ready to refuse right now? And what small, uncompromising act of sovereignty will you take this week to stop feeding the cycle?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative, deconstruct the dogma, see the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical.
Thank you for joining us.